And so we're back, guys. This is part two. And the part one, we talked about being cheated on. So in this episode, we'll dive into the perspective of the people that cause the hurt, the cheaters, the betrayers, and those people who damage relationships. We'll explore why they act the way that they do, the struggles that they have, and the road to redemption if they choose it. Right now, I'll share with you guys, well, something that I think is fascinating. I don't know if you guys have ever witnessed a couple talk about the cheating that's happened in their relationship. I have had the unfortunate pleasure of having to do so many, many, many times. And what I have learned about people, and I'm going to say especially women, because men don't bring, in my experience, men don't bring their wives to counseling when the wife is cheated. I'm not saying that it never happens. It's not common that it happens, right? Usually, if a man finds out that his wife or his girl is cheating, he deals with that in his own way. Women, we go to counseling, right? We bring our husbands to counseling. So these situations that I'm going to share with you, or these answers that I'm going to share with you, are the questions that women have asked their husbands or their boyfriends, and the answers that those boyfriends or husbands have given them. And what I have found is that it really doesn't matter the answer that he's been given. Now, this is universal, man or woman. Once you've been hurt, it really doesn't matter what the answer is, depending on what the hurt was. If the hurt was betrayal, it doesn't matter what the answer is. Because if it's what I want to hear, I don't believe you. Because if this is what you thought, if this came from you, then you wouldn't have done what you did. So I don't believe you. And then if it's the truth and it's not what I want to hear, now you're making the situation worse, right? You're exacerbating the situation. So it's the funniest thing. It's not funny at all, but it's the funniest thing that women want closure. Like, that's a thing. We want closure. We want to know why. We want to know what happened. We want to know why you did it. We want to know if you're remorseful. But the answer never suffices. It never does. It never does. So what I'm going to do is give you guys the top 4 questions that I have heard women ask their husbands or women ask their boyfriends when cheating has happened. And I'm also going to give you the answers that I remember these husbands or boyfriends giving. So the first one, why'd you do it? Boyfriend or their husband says, I don't know. It just happened. It never just happens, right? There's some things, there's some clothes that have to come off. Some skirts that have to be pulled up, some pants that have to be pulled down. Like, it doesn't just happen. Just like you don't just put the clothes on. They don't just appear on you. They don't just come off you. It doesn't just happen, but okay. Right? Another one that I remember is, well, I was angry. I was frustrated, or I'm tired of feeling unappreciated. I wanted to feel needed. I wanted to feel wanted. Right? Now, those 2 responses are not anything that a wife or a girlfriend wants to hear. I've seen that go really, really left. But that was your husband's truth. That was your boyfriend's truth. And because it wasn't what you wanted to hear, your mind couldn't accept it. Well, we already know that your mind hasn't accepted what happened in the first place, let alone everything that comes behind it. And so this is why I said in the last video, there's probably going to be some space that's needed for your person to get back to some healing before you guys can have a conversation about this. Because most of the time, your person is not in a place where they can receive your answer no matter what the answer is. Case in point, I had another couple, and the wife asked the husband, why did you do it? And he says, I didn't know how to cope with what I was feeling. And so I did something and it hurt you. And now I feel horrible that I could hurt you in that way. That's exactly what he was supposed to say, right? Some right out of the movies stuff. That's exactly what he was supposed to say. And you know what that woman turned around and said to that man? You're lying. If that's how you felt, you wouldn't have done what you did. Oh, I said, oh, and I learned this early on in my career. Oh, this does not go well. No matter what you say, this does not go well. I'm not telling you to lie to your person. I'm telling you that because you have hurt them in the way that you have hurt them, if you don't give them some time to get some healing, the effort that you make to try to get the relationship back on track is going to be futile. That is what I'm telling you. It is going to be a waste for quite some time. So I'm recommending, if this is a relationship that you want to hold on to, you give your person some space. Even if they say, and they're probably going to say to you that they don't need the space, they don't want the space, right? In my experience, that doesn't work out well. I haven't seen it work out well yet. There's going to be some time needed. Now, you can be really, really patient with your person. And I mean really patient with them, because you don't know how long it's going to take. And that could happen, right? You could absolutely have turned over a new leaf and be sincere and give your person all of the patience in the world. And if they sincerely want to be with you, yes, you guys will get that thing back on track at some point. Who knows when that point will be? But it is going to take some extreme patience on your part to deal with your person's ups and downs while they go through their healing. And if you can do that, if you've gotten yourself to a place where you're mature enough and healthy enough to do that, that can and will absolutely work. How many times have you seen that happen? Far and few in between, but it does happen, right? Another question. Did you ever think about how your actions would affect me? No, not thinking about you at all. This is not about you. And so I think the expectation that women have is that you've done this thing. So when we have a conversation about it, you're going to be in a place of humbleness and remorse. So they don't expect some of these answers that they're getting. And it's interesting just to watch the dynamics of this unfold, because people really don't know, like we really don't know how to be in relationships. We really don't. We don't know how to be in relationships when they're going well, let alone when something has happened to damage one of us or both of us. So it's really, really interesting to watch. I heard another of my clients say to his wife, "You're so caught up in yourself, I didn't think you noticed." So she immediately fired back with, "So you did this to get my attention?" And he was like, "No, I didn't do it to get your attention. I'm just saying that you're so busy with you that you don't notice me." What do you do with that? That's now, had they had that conversation before? We're not going to go into that because we need to move on. But like, this thing is not just as cut and dry as we may think that it is, as many people may think that it is. It's not that cut and dry. And so I'm taking my time and walking you through this so that you can get a different understanding, right? Just like I told you guys in the last podcast, anytime you have a problem, in order to solve it, you need education, understanding, execution. So we are getting some education and some understanding into the perspective of the person or the people who do the hurting, because they are, in fact, hurt people, right? We need to know what is at the root of their hurt. We need to know. And so I need you to check your emotions at the door, because these people have been hurt more than likely, just like they've hurt you. And you might be feeling like, well, Shay, that's not an excuse. I didn't hurt them. So it's not an excuse for them to hurt me. I'm not saying that it is an excuse for them to hurt you. I'm saying I need you to recognize that what we're talking about is hurt people hurt people. And let's not forget, you had your part in this also. You did not choose this person by gunpoint. You willingly and soberly chose the person. It's not their fault. You didn't do your due diligence, right? I'm not excusing their behavior. I'm saying you have to do enough due diligence to recognize that a person is hurt and go the other way. But if you choose not to, you can't be upset with this person for doing what it is that they're going to do to you. No more than you can be upset with a person who's addicted to drugs stealing something out of your house, right? Neglecting their bills, neglecting their children. That's what happens with that. Those things all come together when it's bad enough. And as much as you want to be upset with this person, addiction is what addiction is, and it does what it does. Just like hurt people hurt people. It does what it does. I'm trying to get you to see that the playing field is leveled. Just because you didn't do this does not mean that you haven't hurt anybody in your lifetime. You've hurt somebody somewhere at some point. So we're all in this boat of hurt people together. This is not the time for you to have a haughty eye and be pious like you're better than somebody else. All right? Okay. So, next question. Do you regret what you did? The answer, I don't know if I regret it. Why? Because that person was getting what they needed somewhere else. Now, why are they still with you? Could be any reason. Could be all the reasons. But no, everybody doesn't regret what they've done. They don't even regret being caught. You know, that's a new thing. Do you regret what you've done, or do you regret being caught? I wasn't trying to hurt you. I wasn't trying to hurt you. Well, how could you not be trying to? You didn't think cheating on me would hurt? No, I didn't think you would find out. I wasn't trying to hurt you. Could have absolutely told you that I was being with somebody else, but I wasn't trying to hurt you. Me sneaking around and doing it was me trying not to hurt you. As crazy as that sounds, you guys, because it really is a thing for those people to say, no, I didn't tell you. I was sneaky about it because I do care about you and I don't want you to be hurt. I just don't know how else to fix what's wrong. I don't know how else to deal with what's going on. So this is what I do. And you could have all the excuses in the world for this person, or you could have all the suggestions in the world for this person and what they should have, could have, would have done. But they're not you and you're not them. So maybe you have your own feelings about your needs not being met, and cheating is just not a way that you would express yourself. Okay. And that's fine. They're not you and you're not them. This person that you have chosen chooses to express whatever unmet needs they have in this manner. So there's some conversations that you guys need to have. And more than likely, you've had several, but y'all haven't been able to come up with some way to put something in place where both of you could be satisfied. So here we are. Now, whether or not they have talked to you about it and you have been too selfish to overextend yourself to do something for them, maybe they haven't told you about it at all, and this is all hitting you like a ton of bricks. Don't know. It could be any of the things. But we didn't start here. Something happened somewhere some time ago. And it wasn't fixed, or it wasn't laid, the foundation wasn't laid right. And now we're here. So it is one of those ugly, ugly things that we wish did not happen, that we wish people would just do better about. If you don't want to be with me, just tell me. If you no longer love me, just tell me. Right? But again, it's not that simple. It's not that cut and dry. It's not black and white in that way. And so here we are, same situation. I had a husband that told his wife, I do regret it. And I realized that regret isn't enough, right? Like, I know what I've done has destroyed you. It's destroyed what we have. And I'm going to work my butt off, basically, to get back in your good graces. Pretty much what he tells her. And she tells him, I'll never forgive you. Oh, well, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, then why am I here? If you have decided already that you'll never forgive him, why are we here? What is we doing here? That should help me, because at this moment, you're wasting all of our time. Why are we here? Right? So this emotional thing, the hurt space, it makes everybody do something crazy. It's just not a good place. What's another one? There was another one, y'all. Oh, if you could go back and do it all over again, what would you do differently? And then you have somebody tell you, I don't know, or I wouldn't do anything differently because I got what I needed. You know what? Oh, these husbands and boyfriends who are like, it's my time to tell the truth. It's my time to tell my truth. Oh my goodness. It's not what you want. Like, let me give you these filtered answers. Let me give you this closure. Because what you do not want is for the man that you love, that you've been giving yourself to, because in your mind, you feel like you're as good to him as you know how to be. So the man that you've been giving yourself to, your time, effort, energy, resources, tells you she's prettier than you. She listens to me. She knows how to please me. She feels better than you feel. She knows how to handle me better than you do. Ooh. Let me just tell you, you don't want to hear that in real time. You do not want to hear that in real time. The closure that you think that you want is not the closure that you want, because you want to know why, right? We're why people. And you want to know why. Just tell me why. What was it about? You don't want him to tell you. You don't. Because the look on his face with the feelings that you have, that takes even longer to get past. It takes even longer. Like, decide once you find out that the cheating has happened. Decide if you're going to just keep your man or not, or keep your woman or not. Because if you make them go through the sordid details, I promise you they will be on repeat and replay in your brain for the longest time. For the longest time. And the expression on that person's face, and you know that they sincerely mean what they're telling you, you don't get past. That's the part that you end up not getting past. I promise you, I've heard it so many times. That is the part that you end up not getting past. Decide whether or not this betrayal is going to break your relationship. If it is, let it. Go ahead and do your healing. Go on about your life. Forgive this person and let that go. If you decide you want to reconcile, same thing. Get your healing, Forgive this person. Let that go. You don't want these details. You do not. Anyway, well, in true to form, I have my people that say, well, Shay, it's just not enough, right? All the things that I've done for him, all the ways that I've sacrificed for him, his I'm sorry's, his tears, it's just not enough. Okay, I hear you. Well, let's crucify him then, because he absolutely deserves it, right? Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Let he who is without sin drive the first nail. I'll have the hammer and the nails ready for you. So if you can tell me that you've never hurt anybody, you've never deceived anybody, you've never lied to anybody, manipulated anybody, intentionally or unintentionally, if you can tell me that, I'll absolutely hand you the nail and hammer myself, and we can nail him to the cross, him or her. We can nail him to the cross. I'll help you. But people who cheat are not intending to hurt you. You finding out that they're cheating is never a part of the plan. Never a part of the plan. So it's unintentional. These people are not concerned about you in their moments. Cheating is a selfish act. They're not thinking about you. Whether or not you drove them to it is not what we're talking about. We're talking about these people feel that there's something in them that's unhealed, that needs healing, that needs touching, that needs loving, that needs something that they're not getting with you. So they're looking for it outside of you. Does it have something to do with you? It might, but it absolutely could not. You could absolutely be the best girlfriend or best boyfriend. And this person just has something going on with them that you don't know about. Or maybe you do and you just can't help them with it. Or maybe it has everything to do with you because you are selfish. And you don't believe that it's your job or your responsibility to give this person what it is that they need. That could absolutely be the thing. But we don't know. Right? And I'm not going to even get into whether or not you're married to this person or not while you're sitting there trying to act like them telling you they're sorry and them being sincerely sorry is not enough. Because if you're not married and they've cheated on you, you're just as guilty in the eyes of God. So you certainly don't need to be walking around talking about you're not about to forgive anybody. You're not even in a position. But okay, I take the time to spell that out so that we can level the playing field here. There's no need in you walking around looking down your nose at anybody. Just because you haven't cheated certainly doesn't mean that you're innocent, right? You've done something somewhere. We just don't know what you've done. But if God decided to take the covering off you, what might we learn about you that we didn't know? But whatever it is, I'm sure that you'd like the opportunity to be forgiven for what you've done. I'm sure that you would. So all I'm asking you to do is to put your hurt on the side for just a minute and listen with your heart. Because this person, more than likely, has been hurt in the same way that you have. And maybe not the same way, but they've been hurt just like you have. Maybe not by you, but by somebody else. So this is about hurt people, hurting people. You included. Because you've hurt somebody at some point. So this is where we all sit and we all humble ourselves because we've all done something to somebody at some point. Today is just your turn. That's all. And you can decide that you don't want to forgive this person. That's fine. Like I told y'all in the first podcast, in order for you to be forgiven of what you've done, you have to forgive other people for what they've done. But if that's not enough for you, think about the people that you absolutely know that love you. You have to be able to protect those people. So you can't walk around with this infection in you, right? These people that are hurting people, they have their own stress that they're dealing with. They do. They absolutely go through their emotional cortisol increase. You know, I have to tell you what that amygdala is doing. Now, it's interesting though with cheating because one of two things could happen. The part of the brain that can activate could be the stress center, and the amygdala can start increasing that cortisol because this person has a fear of being caught or the guilt that they may feel about what it is that they're doing, right? So they're walking around with constant stress. Or it could go the other way. And the reward system of the brain can be stimulated, releasing the good feeling hormone. And they're excited about this cheating. It could go either way, right? The other thing that does absolutely happen, usually in either case, if this person considers themselves a good person, usually their brain has to reconcile with the feeling that they have that they're not supposed to be doing what they're doing. And of course, that creates cognitive dissonance in this person. So now we have to decide what we're going to tell ourselves to assuage our feelings because there's a problem here. We all know good people don't do this. So what's happening with us? Something. That cognitive dissonance, that's a whole problem. But I'm not going to go into that because I don't want you guys looking for things. Well, Shay said, dot, 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 dot. And now you're looking in your relationship for something that you don't need to be looking for. But just know that these people feel guilt and shame. They feel anxiety. They feel fear, right? Balancing a primary relationship and one on the side is not easy to do for most people, especially if they're good people, right? Bad people, morally corrupt people don't care. But people who have their morals and ethics and values intact, yeah, they feel some sort of way about this. Even though they're doing it, they feel some sort of way about it, right? They do. And there are some physical effects, which again, I'm not going to tell you because I don't need you looking for things. But like I said, more than likely, these people have had trauma just like you have had trauma. These people have been hurt just like you've been hurt. They've just chosen to respond differently from you. Not an excuse, though, people, but it definitely is a reason. These unresolved childhood issues, people have suffered with neglect and abandonment and abuse, right? You don't have healthy coping mechanisms. Not an excuse, but it is a reality. You've been hurt by somebody else, and so now you don't trust people, and you go around and doing things to people that you shouldn't. Not an excuse, but it's a reality. And because you've been hurt by somebody else, now you have a fear of being vulnerable. And you can't let people get real close to you. That's a thing. So you have these surface level relationships, and you have several of them. Because as quiet as it's kept, you still need that love, but you're afraid to trust. So you go around and you plant these seeds. I don't think that the other people know, which makes it a problem, right? Because you don't tell anybody. But you have a fear of opening yourself up to one person. But this one person that you're dealing with doesn't do it for you. So you need several of them. Not an excuse, but it is a real thing. And for whatever the reason, whatever has happened to you, more than likely, it has you questioning your self-worth also. So it's another reason why you don't get too close to anybody, because you don't need anybody really knowing that you don't have it. You're not that person, right? You don't need them really finding out that, there's not much substance here. There's not much value here. There's not much anything here. Now, that absolutely cannot be the case. But whomever hurt you has given you that perception that there's no value in you because they did to you whatever they did to you. So you walk around with that while you try to reconcile it. You walk around with it. And you don't want to get close to anybody else because you don't want them to find what this other person has found, even though that may not be true at all. But you also don't have any coping mechanisms for that. And most of us don't, right? Growing up, that's not a thing that we were necessarily taught how to deal with our feelings. So you do whatever you feel like doing when something has happened to you that you don't like. When something makes you feel a way, you do whatever you feel like doing. That amygdala does exactly that. Nobody's thinking about anything. We're going to do what we feel like doing. Anything to distract us from this pain that we feel. Because that we can't live with. We can't live with how this feels. So I have to do something with it to get it out of me. Well, we have enough social media going around to let people know what they should be doing. And of course, you get into the toxic masculinity or you get into the toxic femininity. What other people say that you should be doing about this pressure that you feel. Oh, you should act like this if you're a man. You should act like this if you're a woman. You should act like this if this has happened to you. You should act like that if you've been cheated on, if you've been lied to. All the things. But it's also glamorized having somebody on the side. Right? It makes you look, I guess, like you're the man or you're the woman when you have a primary and a secondary. Some people have a whole team. Like, that's been normalized. But again, you can't get close to anybody because of the one somebody that's hurt you. And that might not have even been a romantic relationship. That might have been some family member, some integral family member that has told you something about yourself or done something to you. It makes you not be able to get into intimate spaces with people, emotionally intimate spaces with people. And so you act real reckless and you're real impulsive. You don't consider the long-term effects of what it is that you do. And you don't need to take accountability and responsibility for it because nobody else did for you. Nobody else paid for what they did to you. So why should you be accountable or responsible for what you're doing to somebody else? If other people can do what they do and go on about their lives, you should be able to do what you do and go on about yours. Right? Why do you need to be the responsible one? Now, that said, for those of you who are cheating, yeah, we get it. We understand. You had some stuff happen, but you're not the only one. That's what the whole podcast is about. It doesn't give you an excuse to do what it is that you're doing. All we're doing is leveling the playing field and saying, hey, listen, we have all hurt somebody and we're all hurt. That's it. We're not going to draw straws to see whose straw is bigger, whose hurt is deeper, whose pain is longer or more severe. We're not going to do that. We're all hurt and we've all hurt somebody, right? What we need to know is that if you are doing that today, if you're still in the habit of being a hurt person that hurt people, you need to know that that has long-lasting effects. That's what we're talking about. It has long-lasting effects. You may think that the person that hurt you is not thinking about you, so cool, and now you're out hurting people and you're not thinking about them. Okay, let me tell you a little story. So there was a king named David, man after God's own heart. You know this person. You've heard the story. Maybe you haven't. I'll tell you. So David was the greatest warrior king you'll ever hear about in the Bible. And David loved himself some Jesus, loved him some God. Well, one day, David and his men, during a war, David saw Bathsheba taking a bath. Now, I know that there are windows in bathrooms, right? And I know that the windows tend to be over the bathtub. And I'm wondering if David was able to just see her face from afar. Like, where was he in proximity to her to make him decide that he was going to summons her to where he was? Like, what did he see? I'm curious. I don't know, right? I don't know. I'm wondering what he saw. Now, this story is in 2 Samuel, right? 2 Samuel, I want to say 12 or 13. But I'm wondering what he saw that made him summon this woman. Okay, he summons the woman. He has sex with her. Sends her on a back by the way. Finds out that she's pregnant. Now, this is where it gets fun. David, who is the king of this area of the world that they live in, has his own army. This woman's husband serves in his army. Is her husband a great soldier? No. But he loves his country, so he fights. David finds out Bathsheba is pregnant. David tells Bathsheba, I'm going to send your husband home. You have sex with him and tell him it's his baby. Whether or not Bathsheba was like, cool, or whether or not she was like, you have got to be kidding me. Seriously? We don't know. We don't have enough context, right? I'd like to think that she was like, oh, N-word. But because of how the rest of the story went, I don't think that that's how that went. I think she was like, cool, right? Now that tells you right there the type of people that we're dealing with. But how can this be? David was a man after God's own heart. How can this be? Right? How can both things be true? Because they can be. Okay. Anyway, David tells Uriah, Bathsheba's husband, Uriah, I'm going to send you home. You haven't seen your wife in a while. Go home and be with your wife. Uriah tells David, no, my king, my brothers are out fighting. I'm not about to go home and be with my wife while my brothers are out risking their lives for our country. I'm fighting with my brothers. N-word. David is piced, right? So, what movie did that come from? Y'all remember the pet movie that Kevin Hart played the rabbit? I forget the name of it. But anyway, so David tells his other soldiers, put Uriah on the front lines. Put him in the spot that's going to get hit first, the weakest area. Put him there. The soldiers are like, okay, but they have to be thinking, dang, what in the world, right? You have to be thinking, if you're a soldier and you know what war is, you already know where you're weak. And you want to move a person over to the weak side instead of putting your strength over on the weak side? Okay, cool. But what does that make you think about your leader at that point? So you're thinking about all the people that are involved in this thing, because these people have to follow David. Anyway, they do what David said. They put Uriah over on the weak side. Of course, Uriah gets killed, right? Okay. David, I don't know if David felt like, well, I'm going to do the right thing. So I'm going to marry Bathsheba. I don't know if he felt like I was doing the right thing or if he really did love her and really wanted to be with her in that way. Don't know. We don't have enough context for that. At any rate, these two people get married. They bring this baby into the world. The baby gets sick and dies, right? Now, all kind of heck happens because this thing that David did, even though he tried to fix it by marrying this woman, the damage was already done. You have killed a man and has summoned a woman to cheat on her husband because you're the king. You remember we talked about in the first podcast, we talked about opportunist cheaters. This is that. Because you have resources and because you have authority It creates opportunities for you that it doesn't create for other people. And you have caused these folks who are subservient to you to do things that they may not have ever done. But if you say no to the king, what happens? So this is one of those situations where you make somebody, we call it testing their gangster. You make somebody have to find out what they're made of. So either I want to die on my feet or live on my knees. At any rate, David decided he was going to marry Bathsheba, and I guess he felt like, well, I'm going to go ahead on and do the right thing since this happened. But of course, people find out. So now you have this drama, gossip, whatever you want to call it, floating around in the kingdom. And for all of the people who once thought that David was a wonderful leader, fearless leader, now they feel some sort of way about him. So now you have people whose loyalties are shaken, people whose ties are shaken because of what their leader has done. And this could be man or woman, but this is what happens that you don't consider. You don't consider the children that are involved. You don't consider the communities that are involved. You don't consider the job that you have that might be affected, because once this happens, you don't know what this other person is going to do. You have no idea. But you go at it anyway because you are only thinking about you. That's the danger with this. You're only thinking about you, right? This thing, whatever it is that you do in life, good or bad, you're planting seeds. You've heard this. You're planting seeds. And whatever you plant will grow. And so if you're going around and you're doing good, you're planting good seeds and good will follow you. If you're going around hurting people and lying and manipulating and betraying and doing deceitful things, you're planting those seeds and they will grow. Case in point, David's son, Amnon, raped his half-sister, Tamar. David did nothing about that. Nothing. You know why he couldn't do anything about it? Because his own moral compass had been shaken. He couldn't do anything about it. He was going to feel even more convicted if he said something. Who am I? How can I tell you about what you've done when I know what I've done? That's the position that it puts you in. So you're constantly trying to rectify it. You're constantly trying to check it. And you can't. You can't check it after that. So in order for you to not feel like even more of a hypocrite, you have to let it go. But what does that do? Because now the family and the kingdom know that this has happened. And they also know that you didn't do anything about it. So then Tamar's brother, Absalom, kills Amnon. Because somebody has to pay for this crime. Somebody has to. And if David is not going to do anything about it, that's fine. There's another man who's going to step up and be a man and do something about it. Well, Absalom decided, Tamar's brother, that he was going to rebel against David in his own kingdom. And the people who agreed with Absalom, because David didn't handle his business the way that he should have with his own family, he wants to be out and he can fight everybody else in the country, but here his family's falling apart and he has nothing to say. He's sitting by idle and quiet. People don't have respect for that. Let alone men. Men especially don't have respect for a man who does not show up as a man. So Absalom decides that he's going to rebel against David. And the people that agreed with Absalom are now forming their own little troop, their own little company to overthrow him. Right? Now, of course, that didn't work out too well for Absalom. He ends up dying. But David wasn't happy about that. Now you have two sons that have died. And you have a daughter who's been victimized. What is happening at your house? Nothing that you can do anything about at this point. You've lost your authority. Right? So this whole thing, your selfishness allowed you to start this ripple effect with all these people that are now affected, that were absolutely fine before you decided to summon Bathsheba. Whatever you saw, was not your business to do anything about. But that is what happens a lot of the times when, one, you have power and don't know what to do with it. Two, you have power and you and don't know what to do with it. Three, you have power and don't know what to do with it because nobody tells you no. And that stems not in David's case per se, but in regular people's lives. When you have children who don't get told no, those children become very entitled children. And they don't know how to handle no. They don't know how to handle it. So, very dangerous when you're letting your children not have proper structure and boundary. When you don't let your children experience what no means, what structure means, what it means to have an authority, what it means to be in subservient to somebody, to something above you, something greater than you, that becomes a problem. So you have to get yourself together because more than likely you haven't given any thought to these seeds that you're planting. And I promise you, they're going to grow. I absolutely guarantee it. They're going to grow. Now, of course, there's going to be some barriers. If you decide, if you're listening to this podcast and you decide, well, you know what, Shay, I hear you. I'm going to try to do better. I'm going to turn over a new leaf. There are some barriers to it. And these are some of the reasons why people don't, right? Because you have that shame and guilt that's not going anywhere. And people are always going to remind you if they know. They're always going to remind you. You have the fear of rejection because the people that find out, the people that you've hurt, they're absolutely trying to punish you for what you've done. And rightfully so, right? Can you blame them? So you can't be honest with them, like I told you in the beginning of the podcast, because you've hurt these people. They're not looking for honesty. They're looking for revenge. They're looking for punishment. They're looking to take it out of your behind. So you can't be honest with them, which is where you need to start, but they won't let that happen, right? You don't have the resources to make this change. You don't have anybody that you can go to that's going to create a safe space for you. Why? Because you've done the unthinkable. You've done the unimaginable. You've cheated on your person. And this person loves you and you broke up the family and all the things. So nobody's going to come to your aid. Nobody's going to have sympathy for you. Nobody's going to give you grace and mercy because you didn't have this to do, right? So you're left by yourself thinking, well, hey, if I can't be honest and if the people are not going to forgive me, I might as well keep doing what I'm doing. What would be the point in trying to do it right? What would be the point? To lose my family, to lose my community, my job? What would be the point in me trying to come clean about this thing? There would be no point. I'll just go ahead and continue on to feel bad within myself, but there would be no point to come clean, right? Or what's worse, you're completely unaware of what you're doing. You're not thinking about it at all. Complete blind spot. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you're listening to this podcast, now you know. You know that I'm talking to you, and now you can start to take responsibility for your own actions. And if that's not enough for you to make a change, you have to be able to protect the people that you love. You have to be able to protect them. Because this thing that you do, these seeds that you're planting, they're going to grow and everybody's going to be affected because of what you have done. And so if you care about your people, if you have people in your life that you believe genuinely care about you, you have to be able to protect those people. So don't go around or stop today. Call up whoever you have to call. Text them, DM them, do whatever it is that y'all are doing. And stop today. Because let me tell you something. Even if and when you ask for forgiveness, these seeds that you've planted, they're still going to grow. That damage has already been done. It's already been done. You would spend the rest of your life trying to undo it. And that's okay because there's truth in that. and there's honor in that. But know that that damage has been done. Now, if you don't make the change, it just gets worse, right? Has it caused some damage? Yes. Can that damage be contained and maintained? Yes. If you do something about it. But if you don't, then those seeds continue to go on and they plant more of those kind of seeds. And now you guys have started a cancer that's just taken over. I hope that's not what you want for your children. I hope that's not what you want for the people who've been good to you. Like I said, if this is not enough for you to make the change for you, to heal you, think about those people who are innocent to you. Know that the actions that you make will affect those people directly or indirectly. People that hurt other people are usually acting out of their own unresolved pain. But you don't have to continue to do that. There is hope and there is help, but you have to choose it. Wanting it is not enough. You have to choose to make the steps, right? You can download the homework. You're going to need a plan to heal yourself. You're going to need prevention. You're going to need practice, and you're going to need a principle. Now, at this point, this is the same as it is for everybody that's been hurt. Your execution, we've done the education, we've done the understanding. Now we're at execution, how to fix it. Now that we know what it is, we've seen some patterns. We know what kind of situations cause this cheating to happen. How do we heal this? First thing, we need prevention. Your prevention, you have to be aware of what is happening in the first place. And what are we using to do that? Deductive reasoning, which you were taught way back in when you were learning comprehension. Who, what, when, and where. We have to know how we got here. We have to know what ingredients, what people, what players, what things contribute to this happening. And so in the homework, you'll find the road to transformation questions, where we get real deep into finding out how we got where we are. And it's going to give us a clear path to where we're trying to get to. I need you to download that homework because you're going to need it. Also in that homework, you're going to find your character building skills. For this, you need some self-awareness. You got to have it. You need accountability. You need to rebuild some things emotionally because you have been emotionally torn to bits and pieces. When you can go around and hurt people and it not affect you enough to make you stop, it's a whole problem, right? And more than likely, you have some trust issues. So download the homework. You need some character building skills that you can do and practice regularly. And the same principle applies to you that applies to everybody else that's listening, because we're all hurt people that have hurt people or are hurting people. Forgive and let go. Ephesians 4:31 and 32. Matthew 6:14 and 15. Right? Again, forgiveness doesn't mean condoning what has been done, but releasing it and not letting it hold on to you. Because it festers when you hold on to it. And it grows inside of you, suffocating all the other good stuff. That's not what we want. Now, forgiveness is difficult to do in unhealthy people. That's why you have the homework to help you get to health first. And then you can forgive. But even in those cases, a lot of the times you have to pray for the ability to forgive because it is that difficult. And God will handle the justice if you believe that. Right? And not saying that you shouldn't. I'm saying I recognize that you may not be a Christian. I recognize that you may not believe in God. I recognize that you may not have a relationship with him. But for those people that do, you pray for the ability to forgive and let God handle the justice. You'll find that in Romans 12. Now, that being said, more than likely, you haven't spent a lot of time sitting in the feeling of your love and lost street. You are absolutely there, but I don't believe that you're aware that you're there. And so when you decide that you want to make a change, that place is going to be a very lonely place, because you're going to feel like if people really knew, they wouldn't love you. And if people really knew, they wouldn't help you. And if people really knew, they wouldn't protect you. And you're right, for the most part. You have a lot of people that'll turn their backs. That is kind of just what happens, unfortunately. But I know somebody who won't turn their back. And he is excellent. And I say it all the time. He's excellent at meeting people at the corner of Love and Lost Street, because you have absolutely lost your way. Absolutely lost your way on whatever this journey is that you're on. You've lost your way. And you need the kind of love that only God can give you. People do a pretty good job. Not saying that they don't. But God's love is transformational, right? And you're not going to feel that from anybody. I don't care how good they are. But God meets you there. There's not a hole, not a mountain, not a cave that you can go into. It's not enough dirt that you can do. If you sincerely ask God to come get you, he will. Right? David killed a man, intentionally plotted and killed him, slept with his wife, impregnated her. It doesn't get worse than what David did. Right? Typically, it doesn't get worse. Well, David, where does the line end for you, David? Right? I don't know how or why David thought that in all that he had done, that God would forgive him. But guess what? Despite all that David had done, David genuinely repented. Psalms 51, he genuinely repented. And because God is who God is, his grace and David's sincere repentance allowed David to be restored. And God forgave David. Now, he did allow for the consequences of David's actions to naturally unfold for him, right? God is not fair, but he is just, and you will be held accountable for what you have done. But he forgave him and loved him nonetheless. And I'm saying the same thing for you. I don't care what you've done. I don't care what you've done. I don't care where you live. I don't care who your parents are. I don't care what your parents have done. And God doesn't care either. God is a heart person. He's a relationship person. Best person that I know. He's been in the game a long time. He does hearts and relationships. He does mending of hearts. Transformational love. That is what God does. And he is the absolute best at it. Right? And so this is not something, if you decide that you want to make this change, you don't have to make this change by yourself. And let me just tell you, like I said in the last video, if people have hurt you, more than likely people are not going to make this better for you. You need God kind of love. Let God meet you at the corner of your love and lost street. He's excellent there. He doesn't come with, I told you and you shouldn't have, da, 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 da. He doesn't come with judgment. He comes with the kind of love that he knows that you need. That's what makes him so great. Right? Now, there's a link in the description called the Roman Road. It is this step-by-step scripture-based process for how you can become a Christian if you're interested. Teaches you how to get to your salvation and an eternal relationship with God. In my opinion, it's going to be one of the best things you ever do in your whole life. Probably the best thing you ever do in your whole life. But that's my opinion, right? Well, that's all I have for y'all. Stop by next week. Go into the description. Get the healing homework. Get the Roman road. Look over the stuff, right? Not trying to force it on you. As always, I'm not trying to convince you. Neither is God. This has to be on your terms when you're ready, because you have to choose it. You have to pick up your own bed and walk. So until that happens, these are just conversations. I love you. God loves you. There's nothing you can do about it. This journey is yours to create. Make it what you want it to be. Remember, if you can change your perspective, you can change your whole life. Until next time.